Hey everyone, we're going to be talking about, does parental arguing raise anxiety and depression in a child? Although understandably, arguments between parents happen all the time, sometimes it happens with or without kids in the picture. And nowadays, kids in elementary school have high anxiety and depression due to parental conflicts. Kids at that age are mostly visual learners, and to see parents arguing can deeply impact them in many ways. There are many or so ways to fix these issues. For example, giving better counseling to kids who happen to need it, or providing parents with cheaper counseling so they would not have to take it out on their children. It is important to know how certain children get abused. There are certain children who aren't treated properly, which can lead to high anxiety or become antisocial, or worse, become depressed at a very young age. This is rather important to think about, because if children experience anxiety or depression at such a young age, it can lead to suicide, leaving nothing but pain and guilt between parents wondering where they went wrong. This explains why parents would rather have a better choice to get cheaper counseling, because it also states in the journal Parental Conflict, Outcomes and Interventions for Children and Families on page 7 that 4 out of 10 marriages end in divorce, now compared with around a third in 1979. The circumstances are frequently conflictual, and the children often suffer and come to the attention of various adults who care for them. Practitioners like myself need to be aware of the different forms of parental conflict and how this affects children's health and well-being at different ages and stages of their lives, and most importantly, how we can support and signpost parents to appropriate health. This comes to show that if parents do not get proper treatment for their outbursts, it not only affects both parents, it also affects their children in the long run. Children always look at their parents and learn from them. They learn proper language from their parents' vocabulary that they use on a day-to-day basis, but when there's a situation where both parents are fighting, they learn tones in speaking. They also develop a fear and a sense of hopelessness. In the article Happily Arguing, the Role of Parental Positive Emotions During Interparental Conflict on Child Functioning of 2019 by Hannah Childs Woolfolk from University of Vermont, it states on page 8, specifically after observing interparental conflict, or IPC, consisting of destructive conflict tactics, children reported more general negativity, anger, sadness, and fear, and less happiness. Alternatively, witnessing constructive conflict tactics, including calm discussion, support, and affection, was related to children's lower negativity, anger, sadness, and fear, and greater happiness. This comes to show that since kids learn visually, they not only learn what is good and what is bad, but they also learn tone and how to use tone in speaking. When around parents who argue all the time, they develop what we call attitude, and they use that type of language with that attitude that they learned from their very own parents to talk to others, not realizing that what they are saying is hurtful. It is never okay to argue in front of your kids, since the majority of the time they learn actions and language from their parents, and they use it without realizing they are causing harm. In the article, The Effects of Intimate Violence on Children, it states on page 12, domestic violence has been characterized as a health and social issue of epidemic proportions. The actual number of children exposed to domestic violence is very unclear, because there has never been a national prevalence. Instead, estimates of the number of children exposed to this trauma have been extrapolated from surveys of violence between adult family members. Adjustments are then made for the number of households with children and for the average number of children for each household. This comes to show that the topic of parental arguing was always swept under the rug, because there was no indication back then of the effects of parental arguing on a child. We could all relate to experiencing loved ones arguing when we were little or when we were all grown up. Seeing loved ones argue is one of the worst feelings any child can experience, because we all feel hopeless throughout those times. But even when kids try to stop both parents from arguing, both parents muffle out the emotions of their children, creating anxiety and a sense of hopelessness in them. So in conclusion, by increasing counseling and decreasing its cost, it could perhaps increase the number of families that will attend counseling sessions if they truly need it. Not only this, but offering more counseling between trained counselors and students might help bring the abuse to light. If nothing else is done about this ongoing issue, it will continue. Most times it could be a quiet issue that happens within walls. However, depending on how bad it gets, it can be an issue that could eventually take the victim's life, either by hand of the parent or the own hand of the victim. Although this was a tough topic to talk about, I genuinely hope you liked my presentation.